Now, top story: in the latest attack of Khalistani violence abroad, a senior Indian journalist was verbally intimidated and physically assaulted outside the Indian embassy in Washington, D.C. Separatist Sikhs hurled abusive language and openly threatened the Indian ambassador. Before this, another incident was reported from Canada. India's High Commissioner to the country was forced to skip an event after a violent protest by Khalistan supporters. An Indian-origin journalist present at the venue was also assaulted. India conveyed strong concerns about these actions by pro-Khalistani elements. These incidents are just among the many that have been reported in recent weeks. All this while, Khalistan sympathizer and the latest self-styled leader of the movement, Amritpal Singh, has been on the run in India. There's been a massive manhunt launched in Punjab and across key border states to nab him since March the 18th. Investigators, of course, are directly saying that there is a link to Pakistan's ISI. All these incidents are happening. But it can also be said that the protesters are probably getting more attention abroad than their numbers really justify. Remember, a handful of protesters out there and a single camera, you may think, oh, there are protests all over Toronto and Vancouver and the whole of Canada is up in flames. But actually, it's a handful of protesters. But despite that, despite those numbers, there's probably a disproportionate amount of attention that they're getting. Look, there are issues in India that are taking place, and these are issues that will get international attention. There are reports on the attacks of the freedom of the press, for example, or cases being filed against journalists. These will always lead to a lot of press abroad and a lot of bad press abroad, naturally. But where on earth in all of this does Khalistan suddenly spring up from? How has that become a major talking point at all, especially around the world? Let's just first understand what the Khalistan movement is and where it came from. This, for viewers around the world who might be wanting to know, this of course comes back to the time of the partition of India and Pakistan in 1947. It was a demand for sovereign rights of a separate country for the Sikhs, which largely was in parts of Punjab in India and some parts of Pakistani Punjab as well. But 1947, after the partition, those demands really went away, and after that, those demands never got much attention at all until Bhindranwale came up, until the infamous Operation Blue Star of 1984. But other than that, Khalistan itself never got too much support in India. The movement has been non-existent, virtually non-existent in India. So the question remains, why is support for Khalistan continuing to grab headlines outside India and is continuing to grow outside India with no resonance in India at all? It's present among a small fringe overseas and frankly not even taken very seriously there. Now yes, there was some talk about the Khalistan movement which started up during the farmers' agitation in India a couple of years back. But you could argue that even that was somewhat misplaced. You can say that that agitation did start talk about Khalistan once again, and it did lead to this incident at the Red Fort in Delhi. This is where movements like Waris Punjab Ke, those movements started to get a little bit of traction. But at the end of the day, I think we're justified in asking, is all of this just a storm in a teacup? Or is it an attempt by the ISI to fish in troubled waters? Who, what, where are the origins of this support coming from, and why is it continuing to get some interest?